descent has no conflict with intelligent design. Intelligent design has no particular problem with common descent. If something was intelligently designed, or if there was a system that was governing these things, the fact that you had common descent would be exactly what you would expect. And he mentioned Mendel. I'm going to talk about Mendel in just a second. And it's kind of a classic case of how the greatest scientific minds of the world believed without thought of question that this was true, only to find out that there was a much better explanation just around the corner, and there was no problem with it, and I think you're going to see the same thing in this. But before I let go, Z mentioned that Darwin published his material in 1859. Does anybody know who shares credit with Darwin? Wallace.
Sure.
That's right. Does anybody know what happened to Wallace in later life? He became a proponent of intelligent design.
He became spiritual.
Right. So, I just thought, interesting note for the historical record. Back to Mendel. Does everyone know who Mendel is? The pea plants? Okay. And you know that Mendel proposed that if you have pea plants, that you have the mother and the father, you have inherited traits, the dominant, recessive, so on and so forth. It was a very elegant theory. However, it didn't really address everything that was observed. But yet that was the considered scientific consensus of the day. Watson and Crick come along, and they proposed DNA. Now, did DNA totally say that Mendel was wrong? No. DNA just simply added the light and the clarification of how Mendel's points of view or his theory actually executed in nature. I believe that what's going to happen in intelligent design is that we're going to find something not too different than DNA. We may even find it within the DNA itself that governs speciation and the things that Darwin observed. And when that happens, all of a sudden things like similarity and shared common characteristics and so on and so forth, we're going to say, well, of course, there isn't anything wrong with that. That's what you would expect. But that doesn't mean that the theory of natural selection by random chance is what caused it, any more than random chance caused what Mendel observed with his pea plants. In fact, if Mendel came and presented his pea plant theory to you today, would you find that very satisfying? Would you accept random chance as the governing thing with heredity? Or would you instinctively say, yeah, but I want to know why, and what was that trait? It's fine to say that the trait was carried, my son looks like me, but how did that happen? What caused that? What was the actual mechanism that did that? So the fact that the observed characteristics and the common characteristics were seen is not exactly totally scientifically satisfying. We would want to know something that caused that shared characteristic, and that's what intelligent design is looking for. I know that Z doesn't intend to be making ad hominem attacks against intelligent design scientists, but I just have to reiterate again, these are not people that are just throwing out these theories from some crazy place. These are fully accredited, multiple PhDs, at least in case of the Smithsonian, in the same branch that he is studying right now. And they have their PhDs from prominent institutions, and the research that they're doing are in peer-reviewed journals. So this is not some flaky science. This is very valid science being conducted in parallel with the very valid evolutionary science that is being done. And there's really no reason for the two to be in conflict with each other unless you start as a basis that says there cannot be a non-random chance reason for evolution. If you just let go of that one concept that it has to be random chance, there can't be anything governing it, well then your mind suddenly is open to intelligent design. And in fact, there would be a fairly interesting combining of the two disciplines to say, let's go see if we can't find out what that mechanism is. Much like Mendel could have said, well, I observed the phenomenon, now I want to go find out what it is that causes it. That's what led to DNA and Watson and Crick.